Hello and welcome to Alex's Afternoon Art Show, where it is yet again not the afternoon. As a matter of fact, it is again the evening. Today we're going to be drawing Superman. We're going to be talking about flying poses, heroic poses, a little bit about perspective, and maybe a few other things if I feel like adding to the boiling pot. Okay, so we have, as per usual, done our base sketch already, so we can just get on to doing the details. So you can see here from what I've drawn that this is going to be a bit more of there's going to be a bit more perspective going on here. I have had to use, as I have described in, I think once before, the Frankenstein method, which is simply taking bits and pieces of your reference from all different places and just cobbling it together into one kind of Frankenstein's monster. Sometimes it works, sometimes it really does not. But in this case, I think it's okay. We're still going to have to do some work later on to make some of this work. I've kept in part of it, I've kept in this fist here because hands are hard. But yeah, so we're going to see this reference again a couple more times, I think. Maybe later on, because I'm going to have some work to do to match it with the perspective, because the hand itself, you can see here, it's pretty facing forward, but the way that his hand is, you should be able to see a bit more of the button. So we'll have to do a little bit of work later on for that. But yeah, since I have already kind of done the work on the posing and everything here, you can kind of see flying poses. Typically, well, particularly whenever you're working with this kind of perspective, you're going to want to put in some foreshortening. And so, for those of you that don't know, foreshortening is simply things that are closer to the view should be bigger, things that are further away should be smaller. And so, yeah, that is very easy to see with the kind of the hand closer, further, that type of thing. But yeah, it's a very simple trick to add depth. That's really all it is. And so, yeah, that's the kind of basis of what we're doing in terms of perspective, is that type of thing with the foreshortening, which we've already done. And then with flying poses, almost always whenever you're drawing flying poses, you're going to have this, I can't actually make the pose right now, but you have this knee shape almost always coming out, because that just kind of adds this sense of motion to it a little bit, I suppose. But yeah, the elevated knee and then the straight leg, that's usually the way it works, and so we obviously can't see the straight leg based on our perspective and stuff like that. So anyways, without further ado, I'll actually get on to drawing this thing. You know, I feel like I should maybe explain a little bit of my thought process here when it comes to drawing Superman's face. So, whenever I draw Superman's face, I typically try to give him, you know, what you describe as maybe kinder features. And as well, I almost always draw Superman smiling, because, you know, Superman smiles. And he smiles a lot. He's supposed to smile. And yeah, none of this red eyes nonsense. More of just the kind of the classic happy looking Superman. And again, as I've said in the past a good few times at this point, there's no need to worry about keeping facial features too symmetrical. These eyes barely match, but they match enough to kind of fool your eyes. So it's a case where you don't really have to worry too much about symmetry. It's just not something that's really worth spending your time over, because yeah, it'll only kind of, it won't do too much to help the drawing in the end. It'll just kind of, you'll just get kind of hung up on it, and then it won't really help you out too much in the end, because yeah, faces are not symmetrical. They might have just over got like two eyes, two ears. That's symmetry in a sense, but they're not actually perfectly symmetrical. A lot of people have like an eye that opens slightly less than the other, or have like an odd shaped ear, stuff like this. And adding in those little things whenever you're doing your drawings helps to give a bit more life to stuff. I'm trying to be conscious though of how many little lines I add to his face, because Superman is supposed to be very chiseled, but he's also I feel like Superman should also have very kind of smooth face in a sense, not like baby faced or anything like that, but I just feel like he shouldn't have too much kind of going on. It should very much be a case of where, yeah, it's not too much. It's always good to kind of know when to stop yourself from getting too carried away with things. But yeah, I do have a habit of going a little line crazy here and there. I might even have to tone down these chisel lines here a little bit later on, because they feel like they might be a little much. But we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I suppose. Whenever I draw Superman's hair, I do my best to kind of give Superman's hair a pretty definitive shape. It usually does whenever you see Superman in anything. It usually has a rather definitive shape, his hair. Whether that be like a particularly kind of strong shape as I'm kind of going for here, or something maybe a bit softer, is kind of up to you, I suppose. It's up to the artist. Because yeah, like a lot of artists might draw Superman as having maybe a bit looser hair or stuff like this, but I tend to draw Superman's hair as being rather kind of formed, and yeah, as a very kind of definite shape, which isn't usually how I draw hair. But yeah, it just kind of helps Superman stand out a little bit, I think. See, the handy thing about drawing Superman's hair is that since Superman's hair is supposed to be dark, you can kind of throw in a lot of these very thick lines and everything, and it won't seem too amiss, because again, yeah, his hair is supposed to be dark. It helps to kind of add a bit more shape to what we're doing, to have these very dark lines in there, because yeah, it helps to disperse a little bit more of what we're doing, and yeah, give more shape to everything. And yeah, to just kind of help block in some of these things. We don't want it to be too dark though. Okay, so now that we've kind of gotten past the head, we can move on to doing the rest of the body here. And so now we need to be careful, because again, our perspective is going to do a lot here to determine what we're doing with the majority of Superman here. You might be wondering where I kind of started from in terms of some of this reference, but what I actually started from, what I started from was a swimming pose. And the reason for that is I had to do some mental gymnastics to get to that point, because what I started from was I started looking up flying poses or poses of people cheering, because you get the arms up, and that's what I was thinking there. But then it struck me, because in Superman Returns, the way that they shot the flying scenes were that they had him swimming in a green swimming pool. Not like the water was green, but the walls were all green in it, so that they could Photoshop him out, or like they can edit him out. And yeah, so yeah, I started from that. That's what I looked at. I looked at swimming poses, and then almost like immediately, one of the first results was the exact pose I was looking for. I was like, oh yeah, perfect, great. It's exactly what I was looking for. If only I'd come to this conclusion sooner, but oh well. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes. Well, that was nightmarish, but I finally kind of done enough to this, I think, to fix it to a degree, so that it fits our perspective at the very least. It's not off in any way. It doesn't look too wonky. Yeah, it's okay, I think. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of having a lot of issues doing this for whatever reason. Having lots of issues right now. Had some technical difficulties there a few minutes ago. The screen kept going black, but yeah, that seems to have stopped now, thankfully. Right, well, I've kind of covered a lot of his body here now. This is really quite tough, to be honest. The perspective here is very much kind of. It really does take a lot of focus to try and kind of do this type of perspective in particular, because it's just it's very demanding, and you have to pay a lot of attention, and as I say, you have to be very focused to to pull it off properly, really. It's not the type of thing I would normally do whenever I draw. I tend to draw in fairly neutral perspective because it's a lot easier generally, and it just doesn't break your brain quite as much as doing it in as doing it in a perspective like this. Because perspective like this is just very demanding, as I say. And yeah, as I said earlier on, I'm trying to be kind of economical with the lines that I add here, because I don't want to have too much going on, because this suit is kind of supposed to be more form-fitting, and yeah, it's a case of where that goes too low, that line. Yeah, it's kind of tricky because I feel like you can't really get too much of the musculature or how big Superman is supposed to be across when it's in this type of perspective. It's very tricky. Very tricky to get most stuff across, really. And yeah, you just kind of end up adding lines into places and hoping they don't look weird. Because yeah, that is just the kind of the nature of this perspective, really. Right, so now that we've kind of gotten a lot of that stuff out of the way, what we're going to do is we're going to add in the cape. We're going to throw in his cape. And our background for this is going to be rather simple. It's just going to be clouds, and we're going to put in the sun and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's going to be a sunset type of look, because I just prefer that generally. I do like how that looks. I feel like it fits Superman too. So cape should be reasonably quick, so we'll just kind of throw in our lines like this. We'll have it come out for maybe a bit. We don't want the cape to seem too long. And then we'll kind of add these lines here to try and kind of try and kind of guide your eye and show just the way that this is kind of bending and coiling here. Okay, so we have done the whole detail sketch now, and so we have to do our dot shading. That's the next on the agenda, and we'll see if maybe we can't do something to help our kind of odd feeling that we have about it currently. It's all right. I think it's yeah. I think it's kind of going a little better as we're kind of moving along and feeling a little better about it. But yeah, it is definitely something. The perspective itself, I just for whatever reason, I'm just not a big fan of drawing stuff with perspective involved because it can just make it feel a bit weird to me. Oh yeah, and also I had to turn on a light because it got very dark in here all of a sudden. So. Yeah, you've got this kind of now, the blue on this side and the yellow from the light over here. But yeah, right, we'll get on with the dot shading now. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, I'm just having a torrent of technical issues today now. The webcam just turned off for no reason there now. Hopefully there's no issues with the recording so far. If there are, I'm just going to have to do my best to edit around them. But yeah, anyways. I said earlier on we were going to talk about hero poses, and I haven't really touched on it very much. So yeah, we'll go into it a little bit now. So the essence of what I mean whenever I say hero pose is more of, well, I suppose, yeah, just the kind of a pose you'd see a hero doing. So in this case, obviously, Superman has very specific poses to him of the way he flies, the fist out in front, the two hands out in front, that type of stuff. That's all very Superman, but I mean, just in general, a lot of characters who fly use those types of poses too. Even bad guys and stuff like that. So this is kind of somewhere in between, of where it's not necessarily exclusively a hero pose what this is, but in general when it comes to hero poses, there's a lot of stuff where it's like, oh, the hands on the hips, like the head slightly raised, stuff like this. That's typically what people think of when they think of a hero pose. But I feel like when it comes to hero poses, there's a few things which are kind of, I don't know, it feels like they're easy to get wrong, I guess, is what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, so it's a case of where whenever you're doing the kind of head tilted, it's very easy to kind of accidentally verge into the territory of going a little bit over the top and making it seem like, I don't know, it's like a propaganda poster or something. That can kind of come across sometimes whenever you're doing something like a hero pose. It's always kind of shy. I usually shy away a little bit from the kind of typical ones. But yeah, I tend to find that whenever I'm doing one, there's an abundance of reference for these types of things, because I mean, a lot of people want to draw these types of poses, so it's a case of there's an abundance of reference for it. So I guess it's a case of we're just kind of experiment until you find something that you like. When it comes to hero poses and stuff like that, but again, I don't mean to tutorialize too much. I don't mean to tell you like a specific way to do things or anything like that. Alrighty, there's our dots, and now it's on to the colours, and the colours will most likely not take very long. Usually whenever I'm coloring Superman, I tend to make Superman look as close to Christopher Reeve as I can, because, you know, that's Superman. And yeah, I feel like it's a case of where, yeah, I do tend to make him look pretty close to Christopher Reeve, which in this instance is actually kind of an accident. I didn't necessarily intend to make him look like Christopher Reeve this time, but he kind of does anyways. And yeah, I don't know, I guess it just happens sometimes. But yeah, right, what I'm going to do now is start with the skin, and then we're gonna just work through all this stuff. And so we're probably gonna use a lighter blue this time. We're not gonna be using the kind of deep blue that they tend to use these days. I just think Superman's colors should not be dark in any sense. No dark colors on Superman. Struggle quite a bit when it comes to the Superman logo for whatever reason. It's just the S is an odd shape usually, so it's funny that the perspective has actually not hindered me in this sense. It's actually made it a lot easier because I only have to draw half the thing really. But yeah, see, typically whenever I draw Superman, I tend to give Superman's red colors, or the reds on his suit, like a kind of a sweeter tone, like, so I tend to verge it a little bit into the pink shade, and the yellows I tend to make a bit more warm. I tend to verge them down a little bit into the orange area, and so then with the blues, as you'll see in a little while, I tend to make it a little bit lighter, but a deep kind of light blue, so that it kind of still fits that tone. The kind of the juicier tone that I tend to go for with Superman's colors in particular. Alright, there we've got our colors done. So now we have to shade that, but first I'm just going to throw on a few of the background things first. Okay, so we're going to put on a border on this one, I think. This feels like one that needs a border. We're just going to do our clouds and everything first before we even bother doing our shading here, because it'll just help me kind of just get through some of this stuff a little bit, I think. So we're just going to run through, grab a brush that I think works for the clouds, and then we'll just do it. Alright, I think that's a lot of our background done, so we'll just get back to task. I think we'll finish doing our shading, or we'll actually start doing our shading, I believe. We've not done it yet, as far as I can tell. But yeah, so we're going to want this to be, I don't know, maybe reasonably intense, so we'll fiddle with it as we're going. We're going to want our shading to be more of a kind of a yellowy color, I think. Like a lighter yellow, but a yellowy color nonetheless. And then hell, maybe we should make our black maybe a bit more of a purpley color and less of this kind of red that we've got going on. We'll maybe make it a bit purple. That might do something for us, who knows. I'm curious to see what we can do here. Anyways, let's get to business then. Okay, that's our shading. What else did we want to do? Well, first things first, just probably grab my black again, just in case I need that before we're done. I kind of half doubt we will, though. Okay, so is there much more to be done? I have to sign it and I have to do the light line. So I'll sign it first. And then we'll do the light line. I do believe we're probably nearly done actually at this point, which is kind of surprising. I feel like we've kind of gone through this pretty quickly, even though it's still been 2 hours. Because I've just maybe not had as much to say as I would have expected. That's a terrible signature. Okay, so we'll do our light line. Then we'll have to throw on the texture. We'll have to do our gradient map. We've still got a little bit to do. Well, we're going to grab a kind of a more of a goldeny color here to do our lighting, because we want this to stand out a good bit. Oh, chair made a loud noise there. But yeah, we're going to want this to stand out a good bit, so I feel like our kind of goldeny color maybe isn't doing it really. I think it's maybe a bit too close to the gold on the back. So we'll maybe make it a bit more of a paler color. That way it stands out a bit more. Yeah, there we go, that's looking a bit better. Okay. Alright, I really do think we might be done here, jeez. We're getting pretty close to the end. Alright, we'll throw on our gradient map, I think. And then we'll see. We'll see if there's anything else I need to do, or if we're actually done. If we're actually done. Yeah. Alright, we'll grab our texture, and then we shall see. Alright, you know what? I think we're done. I think we're done. This was a tricky one, to be honest. It was definitely this perspective that made it as hard as it was. But I think, you know what, I think that purple as our shading color does help. And the kind of the yellowy one as our lighter color. It was interesting to look at, I think. It was interesting to throw in to see how that looks. But, yeah. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about perspective. I think we probably spent the longest talking about perspective than any of our other minor topics. We talked a little bit about hero poses, as well as I don't remember the other type of flying poses. That was the other one. I mean, it's literally in the name of the file. But yeah, we didn't talk a huge amount about flying poses. We talked about how I made it. Anyways, we talked about the Frankenstein method a little bit. But yeah, I think I have kind of covered everything I wanted to cover. So yeah, if you like the video, do what you normally do. This is kind of what I think I'm developing a bit of an outro finally. But yeah, just do what you'd normally do. And yeah, that's it. Bye bye.